I stood frozen as our HOA president reached for my disabled sister's wheelchair and, with what could only be called reckless intent, sent it crashing down our front steps. "Well, that was unfortunate," Karen said, dusting off her hands with zero regret. She had no clue I was a federal judge who specialized in discrimination law. Her smug grin would vanish faster than her property value. It all started that morning, while I was helping Emily get ready for physical therapy. Since her accident 6 months earlier, I turned my home office into her bedroom and built a temporary wooden ramp out front, the very ramp Karen Mitchell had made her latest crusade. I'd lived in Oakwood Estates for 8 years before Emily moved in. The HOA had always been strict, but things went off the rails once Karen was elected president 3 months ago. At first, it was small stuff: grass half an inch too tall, trash bins out a few minutes late. But then she set her sights on what she called unauthorized exterior modifications. "That wheelchair ramp is an eyesore," she snapped at last week's meeting, tapping her manicured nails. "It lowers our property values and has to go immediately. No exceptions." I explained that it was a short-term solution until the permanent one got installed next month. I even showed her permits, timelines from the contractor, and a doctor's note about Emily's need for access. Karen didn't care. "Rules are rules," she said with that fake, polite smile that never touched her eyes. "Perhaps if your sister's needs are so great, she should consider more appropriate housing." I clenched my jaw, reminding myself to stay calm, for Emily's sake. That morning, as I helped Emily down the ramp into the car, I saw Karen speed walking toward us, clipboard in hand, 2 HOA board members close behind like lapdogs. "Excuse me," she sang out, all sugary poison. "We're doing an emergency inspection of your non-compliant structure." I sighed, checking my watch. "Emily has a doctor's appointment. This'll have to wait." Karen stepped directly in front of my car. "This won't take long." The board voted to take immediate action on violations impacting neighborhood aesthetics. The way she said aesthetics made it sound like Emily's disability offended her. "I've explained, we have city permits and—" "Permits from the city," Karen cut in, "not from the HOA Architectural Committee." She lifted a piece of paper. "This is a removal order. You have 24 hours to take it down or face $200 daily fines." Emily gently touched my arm. "James, we'll be late." I nodded, holding in my frustration. "We'll talk when I get back, Karen." "There's nothing to talk about," she replied, smile now ice. "The ramp comes down. Maybe next time you'll follow the rules." As I pulled away, I caught her taking measurements of the ramp, snapping photos like a paparazzo with a vengeance. My stomach churned. The doctor visit ran long. Emily's recovery was steady, but slow. When we finally got home 3 hours later, I couldn't believe what I saw. A team of men was tearing apart our ramp, piling the wood onto our lawn. Karen stood by, victorious. I slammed the brakes and flew out of the car. "What the hell are you doing?" Karen's grin didn't budge. "Enforcing HOA rules. You were notified." I was given 24 hours. "The board determined immediate action was necessary," she replied smoothly. Section 8, Paragraph 3, Removal of structures negatively affecting neighborhood aesthetics. I kept my focus. "You've taken down our ramp. How's my sister supposed to get in the house?" Karen shrugged. "Not our problem. Should have thought of that before installing something without approval." Emily sat in the car, her face flushed with humiliation. Neighbors had come out to watch, some looking away, none stepping in. "I need to get my sister inside," I said through clenched teeth. "Then I'll deal with this." Karen checked her diamond-covered watch. "I'm done here. Consider this a reminder to follow proper HOA protocols." As she turned, I helped Emily into her wheelchair, then realized the awful truth. No ramp meant 6 unforgiving concrete steps. "Karen," I called after her, "you can't just walk away. How is Emily supposed to get inside?" Karen turned, let out a theatrical sigh. "I suppose we can assist this once, as a courtesy." She waved at the men who had dismantled the ramp. "Help them, please." What happened next still turns my stomach. Rather than helping carefully, Karen grew annoyed with how slow they moved. "This is taking too long," she snapped, and shoved them aside to take the wheelchair handles herself. "Just lift it up the steps. It's not rocket science." Emily clutched her armrests, eyes wide with fear. "Please be careful," she murmured. Karen brushed her off and tried tilting the wheelchair backward to tackle the first step. It was obvious she had no clue what she was doing. I started moving toward them, but before I could get there, Karen lost control. The chair jerked sideways, then flipped back. Time crawled as I watched my sister's wheelchair slip from Karen's hands and crash down the 3 steps they'd barely climbed. Emily screamed as she hit the ground, the wheelchair landing hard on its side. I ran to her, heart pounding. "Emily, are you okay?" She was crying, holding her arm that had gotten pinned beneath the frame. Karen stood above, not concerned, just irritated. "Well, that was unfortunate," she said, like she'd dropped a latte instead of nearly killing someone. "This is why unapproved mobility devices are a liability." I stared at her, stunned. "You just sent my sister down the stairs, and you're worried about liability?" I gently helped Emily up and back into her chair, checking her over. Her arm was already turning purple, and she winced when I touched it. "I think we need to go to the hospital," I told her quietly. Karen was already stepping back. "I didn't push anyone. She fell because that chair isn't designed for stairs, which proves my point about requiring HOA-approved accommodations." Her nerve left me speechless. Our neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez, had seen it all and came rushing over. "I saw what happened," she whispered. "That was clear negligence, maybe worse." I nodded, focusing on Emily. "Can you help me get her in the car? She needs a doctor." After Emily was settled safely in the back seat, I turned toward Karen, who was already strolling off with her little HOA crew. "This isn't over," I called. She looked back, still smirking. "Actually, it is. And if you reinstall that ramp without approval, the fines will double." On the way to the ER, my thoughts were racing. For 5 years, I kept my job quiet around the neighborhood. No one knew what I did. I wanted peace, a life outside the courtroom. But Karen just crossed a line she couldn't uncross. The ER doc confirmed Emily had a sprained wrist and bruised ribs. She was lucky, he said. Falls like that can do major damage, especially with her condition. Emily squeezed my hand while they wrapped her wrist. "It's not your fault," she whispered, reading my expression. "You couldn't have known she'd be so reckless." But I should have. I should have seen just how far Karen would go for her petty control. When I explained what happened, the doctor's face darkened. "That could be an ADA violation, maybe even assault. You considering legal action?" I gave a slow nod. "I'm thinking about all of it." Driving home, I made a choice. No more hiding. When we got back, a small crowd of neighbors had gathered, already aware of the incident. Without needing to ask, 4 of them gently lifted Emily in her chair and carried her up the steps. Mrs. Rodriguez handed me a casserole. "For dinner," she said, "and I've got cameras on my porch that caught it all. Footage is yours if you want it." I thanked her, honestly touched. Once Emily was settled inside, I walked into my office and made a call I'd been putting off. Judge Williams Chambers answered as clerk. "Susan, it's James. I need you to clear my docket tomorrow and prep some documents. I've got an emergency that needs my attention." After giving her the details, I hung up and started organizing for the next day. Karen thought I was just another guy she could bully. She had no idea she'd just assaulted the sister of a federal judge known for having zero tolerance for power abuse. The next morning, I attended the emergency HOA meeting Karen had called, claiming I'd behaved aggressively and threateningly the day before. Emily insisted on coming, her arm in a sling. We showed up at the community center to a packed room. Karen sat front and center, looking smug about the turnout. Her smile faltered when she saw Emily, but she recovered quickly. "Let's call this meeting to order," she snapped, banging her gavel like a cartoon villain. "We're here to address the Thompson property violations and the homeowner's hostile behavior." She went on for 15 minutes listing my so-called violations, from the ramp to my tone. She pulled out photos of our house, nitpicking every inch with glee. Furthermore, Mr. Thompson has repeatedly failed to comply with HOA policies and has threatened this board for simply doing its duty. She turned dramatically. "Does the homeowner wish to respond?" I rose slowly, adjusting my tie. "Before I respond to these allegations, I'd like to provide some context that Mrs. Mitchell seems to have left out." I motioned to Mrs. Rodriguez, who connected her phone to the projector. The room went still as clear footage rolled. Karen grabbing Emily's wheelchair, fumbling with it, then losing control and sending my sister crashing down the steps. The room gasped. Karen shot to her feet. "This video is taken out of context." I was trying to help. "The context," I said, keeping my voice steady, "is that you unlawfully removed an ADA-compliant temporary ramp from our home, leaving my disabled sister with no way inside. then recklessly handled her wheelchair, resulting in injuries that required emergency care. I turned to the room. For those who don't know me well, I've lived here quietly for 8 years. I keep to myself, which is why most of you aren't aware of what I do. I paused, meeting Karen's eyes. I am Federal Judge James Thompson of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, currently presiding over housing discrimination and ADA violation cases. Karen's face drained of color as murmurs filled the room. What happened yesterday breaks multiple federal laws: the Americans with Disabilities Act, the Fair Housing Act, and possibly assault and battery statutes. The board swiftly voted to restore our ramp and issue a formal apology. Karen quit the same day, citing personal reasons. But it didn't stop there. The weight of my position came down fast. Federal marshals showed up at her picture-perfect home with a warrant. Her smugness shattered. Investigators found years of shady bookkeeping in the HOA's finances. Karen had been skimming thousands into private accounts labeled as admin costs. A federal court handed her a full sentence: 2 years for fraud, heavy fines for ADA violations, and a permanent ban from ever holding an HOA role again. Everything changed after that. The new board used the recovered funds to start an accessibility program. Emily's healing was supported by the entire neighborhood. 6 months later, I got a letter from Karen. "I never understood the damage I was causing," she wrote. "Rules without compassion aren't justice. They're just cruelty." As Emily said, Karen thought she was pushing me down those stairs, but she was really just setting herself up for the biggest fall of all. Justice wasn't only served in my courtroom, it reshaped a whole community for the better.